link, and psilocybin being a possible solution to the missing link there. And I think of how different we are as a culture now from what the people who lived then would have been, who were connected to the earth and not breathing smog and didn't have their nervous systems blocked by the million stressors that we have in our day-to-day life now. And one of the things that concerns me as a long-time observer of psychedelics on people, not so much psilocybin specifically, but LSD and the more chemically altered ones, is watching the way that does sometimes affect different people different ways, and sometimes in not always positive ways. And when I hear people talking about using psychedelics as a general solution to something, a lot of alarms go off in me because I've seen so much temporary and sometimes long-term suffering from it. And I don't know, I'd like to look at that side of it.
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, I think that the problem is not with the psychedelics. The problem is with educating people. I mean, the way I do psychedelics is fairly infrequently and at quite high doses and in darkness, and then this is my preference, but alone. And the way not to do psychedelics is frequently and at low doses and in socially dense and complex situations, because it draws energy from the thing. There are a lot of people running around who think they have their psychedelic credentials in order, who have in fact only tickled the tummy of the beast. You know, there are social subclasses where you get a lot of respect if you say you're a psychedelic head, and a lot of people simply want entry into the social club. So they say, oh yeah, acid, I took a lot of acid in my time and this and that. But the question is not how much you took. The question is how much you took any given time. Because when I talk about the psychedelic experience, there are thousands of altered states. You know, yoga, hyperventilation, toxicity, dreams, uppers, downers, juice. There are all kinds of altered states. The psychedelic state is very, very defined in my mind. It's characterized by boundary dissolution, by visual hallucination. That's important. The people who say they've taken these things and never hallucinated have to go back for a retread. It doesn't count if you don't hallucinate. They're hallucinogens, remember? So it's a very specific thing that they do. I don't even care for the dissociative anesthetics like ketamine. I don't care for opium. I don't care for cocaine. I mean, I've done all these things, but they're not interesting. What's interesting is the transformation of psyche, which goes on in the presence of these indoles. And we have to educate our children in the schools. We have to teach them about shamanism. We have to teach them about risk. You mentioned the casualties along the way. There are people among us for whom boundary dissolution is not the problem. Their boundaries are dissolving all the time, and they are not good candidates for psychedelics. They are fragile, made fragile by the same set of traumatic forces that may have made you not fragile. But as a general rule, if you have psychic health, psychedelics are not going to harm you. And I've always felt that people know whether they're at risk from these things. I always believed Tim Leary made this statement, but when I tried to give him credit for it, he expressed amazement and said he never said such a thing. But somebody once said, LSD is a substance which occasionally causes psychotic behavior in people who have not taken it. And I certainly found that to be true. It caused members of my family to become psychotic who had not taken it. And I'll bet you that if we could look at the number of emergency room admissions caused by LSD, most of them were people who didn't take it, but who had a coronary thrombosis when their child told them they were taking it, something like that. So we have to educate our children. We have no shamanic tradition. We don't initiate our children into sex or anything else. We need to create a neo-shamanic institution, and I see modern psychotherapy as a kind of incipient shamanism that could educate people. But as long as we tolerate the propagation of media lies, disinformation, hysteria, then we're going to have casualties. And there are also, unstable personalities who simply do not follow the directions. Everything has directions, whether you're, ironing your clothes, tuning up your car, or taking psychedelics. If you don't follow the directions, whose responsibility is it if you screw up? So we have to educate our children, educate ourselves, get these things out of the closet, and make them part of the culture. That's the way to deal with sexuality. That's the way to deal with drugs maturely. Yeah.